every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. It wasn't the faint scent of her perfume lingering unnaturally long in the car that tipped me off, nor was it her sudden obsession with networking events or the mysterious recurring charge on my credit card for a luxury spa she swore was essential for stress relief. No, the first real crack in the facade came when I noticed her wedding ring was missing. Not misplaced, missing. I searched everywhere. The nightstand, the bathroom sink, even inside her jewelry box where it should have been. But it wasn't there. Instead, I found something far more damning. A receipt tucked beneath a pile of costume jewelry. A custom-tailored black silk dress, 2 sizes too small for her usual taste, purchased at an upscale boutique across town. Paid in cash. That was the first red flag. The second? The date on the receipt. 2 weeks ago. The same day she had told me she'd be staying late at the boutique to reorganize inventory. My pulse quickened as I folded the paper and slid it into my pocket. I wasn't naive. I knew what this meant. Patterns always break under pressure, and Sarah's patterns were unraveling faster than she realized. That night, I watched her, not overtly, just in subtle ways. The way she checked her phone before answering me, the softness in her voice when she said my name, like she was measuring every word. She was good, but not perfect, and I knew storms didn't brew without warning signs. Yet, instead of confronting her about the dress or the ring, I waited. Patience is a weapon, after all, and I intended to wield it carefully. At dinner, she set her own trap. Leaning forward, fingers grazing the rim of her wine glass, she began, "Ben, we need to talk." I nodded, cutting into my steak. "Go ahead," I said evenly. She hesitated, her eyes flickering to mine as though calculating how much I already knew. Then, with dramatic flair, she exhaled. "Eric invited me to a private event. Just me and him. It's important for business." There it was, an offer disguised as a confession. I chewed slowly, swallowed, then dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "A private event?" I repeated, letting skepticism lace my tone. She sighed, exasperated, already playing the role of the misunderstood wife. "Ben, this is why I didn't want to bring it up. You always assume the worst." "I assume based on facts," I countered calmly. "So give me some." Her fingers tightened around the glass. "It's just one night, okay? He has connections I need. It's not a big deal." I leaned back, studying her, the way she refused to meet my eyes, the careful pauses in her speech. I already knew what would come next. Act 1, denial. Act 2, justification. Act 3, blame. Right on cue, she hit her mark. "I worked so hard, Ben. I built my boutique from the ground up. You don't know what it's like to hustle in this industry. Eric understands that. He respects it." Ah, the comparison. The dig. I sipped my whiskey. "So you're saying I don't respect your work?" She flinched, barely noticeable, then forced a smile. "I'm saying you could try harder to support me. Not everything is about your ego." The switch, turning the suspicion back onto me. Classic. And she thought I'd fall for it. I exhaled, tilting my head as if considering her words, then smiled. "You're right, Sarah. Go have your night with Eric." Her lips parted slightly, confusion flashing across her face. She hadn't expected that. She wanted a fight, but instead, I gave her the one thing she couldn't argue with: permission. "Wait, what?" she stammered. I shrugged, finishing my drink. "You said it yourself. It's just one night. I trust you." She hesitated, searching my face for doubt, jealousy, regret. She found nothing. And that's when I knew she had no idea. No idea that I was already 2 steps ahead of her. That night, sleep eluded me, not out of anger or heartbreak, but because my mind raced with precision. Every move Sarah made now wasn't just a betrayal. It was evidence. By morning, she was glowing, humming while making coffee, checking her phone incessantly, texting with a smirk I now recognized as pure fantasy. She was already lost in visions of Eric's world. Champagne brunches, penthouse views, and gifts without consequence. She thought she had won. So, I played my part perfectly, calm, supportive, the husband who understood his ambitious wife. I kissed her goodbye as she left for work, then picked up my phone. The first call was to a private investigator. I want proof, I told him, my voice steady. No suspicions, no denials. Pictures, conversations, hotel check-ins, whatever you find, I want every detail. The second call went to Eric's fiancée, Olivia. Her name alone carried weight. Rich, beautiful, and ruthlessly intelligent. When she answered, I kept it simple. Olivia, I think you should know what your fiancé is planning. There was silence, then a cold, clipped response. I'm listening. By the time I hung up, the first domino had fallen. Over the next few days, Sarah strutted through life as though she were on a victory lap. She claimed to be working late at the boutique, but her schedule didn't match her bank transactions. Cash withdrawals popped up in places she never frequented. One evening, she returned home reeking of cologne that wasn't mine. Still, I said nothing. I watched. I waited. Friday night arrived. The night she thought I'd blindly accept her absence. As she stood by the door with her designer suitcase, she leaned in for a kiss. Thank you for understanding, babe. This means so much to me. I smiled faintly. Have fun. She beamed, oblivious to the storm brewing behind my calm exterior. Once her car disappeared down the driveway, I grabbed my keys. It was time to watch the fireworks. The hotel Eric had chosen wasn't some sleazy roadside motel. Of course not. It was one of the city's most exclusive five-star resorts, catering to celebrities, CEOs, and politicians, people who demanded discretion. But tonight, discretion wouldn't be on the menu. I parked a block away, walked through the grand entrance like I belonged there, and rode the elevator to room 714. My PI had been efficient, as always. When I stepped off the elevator, I noticed someone waiting outside the suite, a tall, elegant woman, Olivia. Our eyes met, and I saw the cold determination in hers. Ready? She asked, smirking. I was born ready, I replied. She swiped her key card, and we stepped inside. There they were, Sarah and Eric, wrapped in nothing but sheets, wine glasses on the nightstand, their expensive dinner half-eaten. Sarah turned first, confusion flashing across her face before melting into sheer horror. Beben. Eric sat up, stunned, then saw Olivia. His face drained of color. Oh, Olivia. I can explain. Slap. Olivia's hand connected with such force it echoed through the room. Eric stumbled back, clutching his cheek. Sarah remained frozen, staring at me as if trying to determine whether this was a nightmare or reality. I smiled. Don't stop on my account. You were just getting comfortable. Her mouth opened and closed. Then she did exactly what I knew she would. She tried to recover. Ben, I can explain. I held up a hand. No need. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. Her own voice filled the room. A recording of her giggling with Eric about how easy it was to manipulate me, laughing about how predictable I was, discussing whether he was worth leaving me for. Sarah's face crumbled. Where did you? I tilted my head. You really thought I wouldn't check? Eric groaned. You recorded us? Are you insane? Olivia laughed, a chilling sound. Oh, this is better than I imagined. She turned to Eric, her eyes blazing. You're done. The engagement's over. The business deal's gone. The apartment? Get your stuff out by morning. Eric panicked. Olivia, wait. But she didn't. She turned on her heel and strode out, leaving the door wide open. I turned to Sarah. She wasn't crying yet, but she was calculating, trying to salvage the wreckage. I didn't give her a chance. Stepping closer, I lowered my voice. I want a divorce. My lawyer will contact you in the morning. Her breath hitched. Ben, wait, we can. I leaned in, my voice barely a whisper. Enjoy your night, sweetheart. You earned it. Then I walked out, leaving her standing amidst the ruins of her own making. As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed, a message from Olivia. That was fun, but I hope you're ready, because now we ruined them. I smirked. She didn't waste time, and neither did I. By the time I got home, Sarah had called 6 times and sent 10 texts. I ignored them all, letting her sweat. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into our joint accounts. With the same calm precision I used managing multi-million-dollar portfolios for clients, I dismantled her financial foundation. Every shared credit card was frozen. Her boutique's emergency fund vanished. Savings she thought I didn't know about were redirected to my private account. Everything legally mine was now fully under my control. And the best part? She couldn't even argue. The paperwork was already signed. 2 hours later, the front door slammed open. Sarah stormed in, heels clicking against the floor, her breath ragged. She was still wearing that ridiculously expensive dress, the one meant for Eric. Her face was a mess, smudged lipstick, streaked mascara, wild desperation in her eyes. "You think this is funny, Ben?" she spat, throwing her bag onto the counter. "Freezing my accounts like some psycho ex-boyfriend?" I leaned back in my chair, utterly relaxed. "Ex-husband, actually. Soon enough." She flinched, then shifted tactics. "Okay, fine. I messed up, but you don't get to screw me over like this." I laughed. "Oh, sweetheart, that's exactly what I get to do." Her jaw tightened. Grabbing my laptop, she slammed it shut. "We can fix this, Ben. We don't have to throw everything away over one mistake." "One mistake?" I echoed. Standing up, I towered over her, but Sarah had never been one to back down. I stepped closer, ensuring she could see the amusement in my eyes. "Sarah, you weren't even going to tell me. You were going to spend a night with him and decide if I was worth keeping." Her nostrils flared. "That's not fair." I cut her off. "No, you know what's not fair? I spent years supporting you, funding your boutique, taking care of you. And the second some rich douchebag waves his money in your face, you think you can trade up?" Her expression twisted. "You're making this sound so much worse than it is." I laughed again. "Sarah, I literally played you the recording of your own words. The only reason you're even standing here is because you got caught." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of her lips. "Fine, Ben. You want to be the bad guy? Let's play." She arched an eyebrow. "Do you have a move left?" I didn't blink. "You sure about that?" Her confidence faltered. I reached into my desk, pulled out a folder, and tossed it onto the counter. She hesitated, then opened it. Slowly, the blood drained from her face. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. I took my time pouring myself a drink before answering. "That, my dear wife, is the contract you signed when I first funded your boutique. Remember? The one where I became the primary investor. The one where if you ever committed fraud, infidelity, or financial misconduct, I could buy out your share for $1. Her breathing hitched. I savored the moment, taking a sip of whiskey. And guess what? I just exercised that option. She staggered back, gripping the counter like it was the only thing holding her upright. "No, you wouldn't." I grinned. "I already did. Checkmate." Sarah's breathing grew shallow, erratic. She realized it all at once. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything. Her boutique, her money, her backup plan with Eric, all shattered. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her mind racing for a way out. I waited. Sarah was a survivor, a manipulator, a woman who thrived on control. But for the first time in our marriage, she had none, and it was killing her. Then, just like that, she switched gears. The anger dissolved, the panic evaporated. She straightened, smoothing her dress, flicking her hair over her shoulder as if she hadn't just been exposed, humiliated, ruined. And then she smiled. "Ben, honey," she purred, her voice dripping with fake warmth. "This is ridiculous. You don't actually want to do this." I smirked. There it was, the final act, seduction. She stepped closer, running a hand lightly up my arm, her nails barely grazing my skin. "We've been together for years," she murmured, looking up at me through thick lashes. "I made a mistake, but you don't just throw away something like that over one bad decision." "One bad decision?" I chuckled, catching her wrist mid-movement, firm and unyielding. Her eyes widened. I leaned down, close enough for her to feel my breath. My voice dropped to a low murmur. "Sarah, sweetheart, I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just finally giving you exactly what you wanted." I let go and stepped back, watching as she barely masked her frustration. This was her last move, and she had just lost. "Fine," she snapped, her mask cracking. "You want to play this game? Let's play. You may have frozen the accounts, but I have my parents, my friends. Guess what? Everyone's going to see you as the bitter, insecure husband who couldn't handle his wife's success." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Sarah, you really think you still have people on your side?" She faltered. "What the hell does that mean?" I grabbed my phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. A group chat with all her so-called friends appeared, and at the top was a voice message, a recording of her bragging about how she was playing me, laughing about how she was testing Eric, mocking how blind I was. The chat exploded with messages. WTF? Sarah? This is disgusting. You're seriously the worst person I've ever met. And the best one, from her closest friend Amy. Lose my number. We're done. Sarah's face went white. Her hands shook as she reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. No, no, no. You don't get to control the narrative anymore. Her lip trembled. Ben, please. She was begging. Actually begging. But I had nothing left to give. I pocketed my phone and picked up my keys. Pack your things, Sarah. I want you out of my house by morning. She didn't move. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous calm. You have nothing left. No business, no money, no reputation. And guess what? Eric won't touch you now that Olivia's cut him off. Her eyes flickered. Desperation, fury, helplessness. I tilted my head. So tell me, Sarah, what's her next move? For the first time ever, she had no answer. Sarah stood there trembling, her meticulously crafted world crumbling around her. Always adept at devising escape plans, she usually had someone to manipulate or someone to clean up her messes. Now, however, she had nothing. Her lips parted, but no words escaped. I could see the calculations racing through her mind, desperate for an angle, a loophole, any way to turn this around. Then, just as I anticipated, she snapped. You think you've won? Her voice quivered, not with sadness but with rage. Grabbing a glass from the counter, she hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall, shards scattering across the floor. You smug, arrogant bastard, she screamed, her hands clenched into fists. You think you can just erase me, destroy my life like this? I crossed my arms, calm and unmoved. You destroyed your own life, Sarah. Her breathing was erratic, her chest rising and falling as she glared at me with pure hatred. And then there was the real Sarah, not the charming, ambitious woman she pretended to be in public, nor the sweet, affectionate wife she played when she needed something from me. This was the predator, the woman who used people and discarded them when they were no longer useful, never looking back. But this time, she was the one being discarded, and she couldn't stand it. Fine, she spat, her voice venomous. But don't think for a second that I'm leaving quietly. She stormed toward the stairs, but I grabbed her wrist, stopping her mid-step. You're not taking anything that's mine, I said, my voice dangerously even. Her eyes flared. Your house, your money. You wouldn't have any of this without me. I laughed. Oh, that's cute. You really believe that? I released her, watching as she stumbled back. She was unraveling, and I enjoyed every second of it. You want to see what it's like without me? I said. Go ahead, Sarah. Take your bags and walk out that door. Let's see how far you make it without my credit cards, without my name, without the connections I gave you. She hesitated because she knew, without me, she was nobody. And then, like the pathetic coward she was, she pulled out her final weapon, the tears. Ben, please, she whimpered, her entire body shifting. The anger, the confidence, the smugness, all gone, replaced by a fragile, broken woman. I don't have anywhere to go. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Please don't do this to me. She reached for my hand, her touch soft, pleading. For a moment, I saw it. The woman I once loved, the one who used to kiss me goodnight without fail, the one who held my hand during tough times, the one I built a life with. But then I blinked, and all I saw was the liar, the cheater, the woman who laughed about how simple I was. I pulled my hand away. You did this to yourself, Sarah. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her own making. Sarah didn't leave that night. She paced, stomped, slammed doors, but she didn't walk out. Because she was afraid. Afraid of stepping into the real world without my money, my name, my protection. And that's exactly what I wanted. I let her stew in her own desperation. Let her feel the weight of her choices pressing down on her like a cage closing in. I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and slept like a king. The next morning, I woke up early, showered, got dressed, and went downstairs to find Sarah sitting at the dining table, her eyes hollow, her hands shaking around a cup of coffee. She looked like a ghost of herself, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing for her. Not pity, not anger, not even satisfaction. Just nothing. She barely lifted her head as I grabbed my keys. "Ben," she rasped, her voice raw. I didn't stop. I didn't acknowledge her. I walked out the door and into my new life. My first stop was the bank. Sarah had a bad habit of trying to fix her problems by throwing money at them. And even though I'd already locked down our accounts, I wanted to ensure she didn't have a single loophole left. The banker confirmed it. "Mr. Carter, all joint funds have been fully transferred to your private account per your legal claim. Your wife has no remaining access." The word wife felt foreign now. I thanked him, signed the final papers, and left. Step 1 complete. Next stop, Olivia. She was waiting for me at a private lounge downtown. When I walked in, she was already sipping champagne, looking completely unfazed by last night's disaster. I sat down across from her, and she gave me a knowing smirk. Did she self-destruct yet? I chuckled. She's getting there. Olivia twirled her glass, watching the bubbles rise. Eric tried calling me last night. 5 times. I raised a brow. Let me guess. Begging? She nodded. Pathetically, we clinked glasses. 2 people who had been stabbed in the back, 2 people who were done playing nice. Olivia leaned forward, resting her chin on her palm. "So, Ben, how far are you willing to take this?" I smiled. "All the way." Her grin widened. "Good. Because I have an idea." By the time I got home, Sarah was gone. Her closet was empty, her vanity cleared out. Only one thing remained, a single handwritten note on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, reading her final words. "Ben, you think you've won, but I will rebuild. And when I do, you'll regret this. You'll regret everything. Sarah." I smirked, crumpling the paper. Because Sarah was too stupid to realize something. She wasn't getting back up this time. I made sure of it. As I crumpled Sarah's note, my phone buzzed. It was Olivia. "She's at Eric's," she said, her voice laced with amusement. "And she's desperate." I chuckled. Of course she was. Sarah had no money, no business, and no allies left. Eric was her last lifeline. But what she didn't realize was that she was running straight into a burning house. "How's he handling it?" I asked, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Poorly," Olivia replied, a smirk evident in her tone. "He still thinks he can fix this, but after last night, his reputation is in shambles. My father pulled all his business ties, and his clients are dropping him like dead weight." I took a sip of beer, leaning back against the counter. "So, what's your move?" She exhaled slowly. "I want to watch them turn on each other." I smirked. "Then let's turn up the pressure." 2 hours later, Olivia and I were sitting in a black SUV parked outside Eric's penthouse. The building was exclusive, with a private entrance, tinted windows, and armed security. But that didn't matter because I wasn't breaking in. I was letting them expose themselves. Through the glass, we could see the massive floor-to-ceiling windows on the top floor. The penthouse was lit up, and inside, chaos unfolded. Sarah was yelling, hands flailing, pacing back and forth, while Eric sat on his overpriced couch, his head in his hands. I rolled down the window slightly, listening through a directional mic Olivia had borrowed from a friend. "You told me you'd take care of me." Sarah's voice was raw, desperate. Eric groaned. "Jesus, Sarah, you think I planned for this?" Olivia grinned beside me. "Damn right I did." Inside, Sarah wasn't done. "You were supposed to be my way out," she screamed. Eric snapped. "I didn't ask you to leave, Sarah. You did that all on your own." Silence. Then the shift. Sarah's whole body stiffened. Eric realized his mistake too late. Her voice dropped, eerily calm. "So what? You're just done with me?" Eric stood up, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Look, we had fun, but this isn't what I signed up for." Sarah went still. Then, in a chillingly soft voice, she said, "You're just like Ben. You pretend you're powerful, but when things get tough, you fold." Eric's jaw tightened. "Get out, Sarah." She didn't move. Now, I could practically feel Olivia's grin beside me. "Oh, this is beautiful," she whispered. We watched as Eric grabbed Sarah's purse and tossed it toward the door. She didn't beg, didn't cry. She just grabbed her bag, lifted her chin, and walked out, right into the cold, empty night. She had nowhere to go, and for the first time in her life, no one left to manipulate. Sarah stepped out of the building, her heels clicking against the pavement as she pulled her coat tighter around herself. The doorman didn't even glance at her. No chauffeur, no limo, no luxury ride waiting. She looked around, expecting someone, anyone, to be there for her, but the street was quiet except for a black SUV parked nearby. She didn't see us, but we saw everything. I watched as she pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts, searching for a name, probably her parents, maybe one of her friends from the boutique. She tried to call. No answer. Tried again. Straight to voicemail. I smirked. Olivia had done her part well. She hadn't just pulled Eric's business deals. She had cut Sarah off from every social connection she had left. Sarah's hands clenched around her phone, frustration boiling over. I could see it in the way her body stiffened, the way her jaw locked. Then, finally, she dialed the last number she had left. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times, then I picked up. Silence. I could hear her breathing, shaky, shallow. I waited. Then her voice, barely above a whisper. Ben. One word, but it carried everything. Regret, fear, defeat. You're out of options, I said, my voice steady. More silence. Then she exhaled, a shuddering breath. I have nowhere to go. I looked over at Olivia, who raised an eyebrow, waiting to see what I would do next. Then I did what Sarah would never have expected. I laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, just enough for her to know this was the end. That's not my problem anymore, sweetheart. And then, before she could speak again, I hung up. Sarah stood there, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her, like she couldn't comprehend that I had actually cut her off. And then, as if the weight of reality finally hit her, she sank down onto the curb, covering her face with her hands. For the first time in her life, Sarah had lost, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. She did it all to herself. Sitting on my balcony that night, whiskey in hand, I watched the city lights stretch endlessly before me. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next betrayal, wasn't wasting energy on a woman who never deserved me. I was simply living, and damn, it felt good. The divorce was finalized, my business was thriving, and my sanity was fully restored. Life moved forward, clean and uncomplicated. I started saying yes to things I had ignored for years. Trips, dinners, new investments. It was simple, refreshing. Weeks passed, and one evening, a text from Olivia popped up. Attached was a link to an article titled, *Ex-Socialite, Sarah Carter evicted after failed business scandal claims sabotage. I chuckled. Of course. The piece was brutal. Sarah had burned through whatever goodwill she had left. Her attempts to revive her boutique under a new name failed miserably. Investors wouldn't touch her. And without funding, she spiraled. Worse, her lavish lifestyle caught up with her, leaving her drowning in debt. Predictably, she blamed me. My ex-husband orchestrated this, she whined to some gossip site. He turned everyone against me. I tossed my phone onto the table, shaking my head with a smirk. She still didn't get it. I didn't ruin her. She did that all on her own. That night, as I sipped my whiskey, I reflected on the journey. Revenge wasn't just about destruction. It was about reclaiming power. Sarah's downfall wasn't my doing. It was the inevitable collapse of a house built on lies. My revenge wasn't petty or vindictive. It was calculated, precise, and deeply personal. It taught me something profound. True strength lies not in tearing others down, but in refusing to let their actions define you. Sarah's betrayal forced me to confront my vulnerabilities, but it also showed me my resilience. In dismantling her web of deceit, I rebuilt myself, stronger, wiser, freer. And as I sat there, the city buzzing below, I realized something else. Forgiveness wasn't about absolving her. It was about releasing myself. Sarah's choices were her burden to bear, not mine. I had taken back control, not just of my life but of my soul. The storm had passed, and I emerged unbroken.